Let me a third one. This be the third one I had to go do. A little video work. All right. This is the third one. This is the third live show I've had to go anyway. Went to the birthday celebration of Brian Pillman. No picture of him, so Brian William Pillman was an American pro wrestler and pro football player, best known for his appearances in Stampede Wrestling in the 1980s and WCW, and World Championship Wrestling, Extreme Championship Wrestling, and the World Wrestling Federation. Pillman created a legacy as the loose cannon, a wrestling gimmick that would see him do a series of work shoots that would gain him a degree of infamy. For his unpredictable character, he was also known for being extremely agile in the ring, although a car accident in April of 1996, from which he received an extensive ankle injuries, limited his in-ring ability. By the end of his career, he worked with his longtime friend and former teammate Stone Cold Steve Austin in a storyline that's involving a firearm in a gun angle, and with the Hart Foundation, during the first instances of the developing Attitude Era in 1997, he died unexpectedly due to an undetected heart disease. Went to the early life. Pillman was born on May 22nd. Oh, fucked up. That's why I didn't know. That's why I didn't know what to do. I fucked all of it up. May 22nd. I might just go ahead and fucking do this now. I'll do my edits. Don't worry about it. I'll do my edits. Hold on. It's meant May 22nd, 1962. Fucked up. But it's too late. But that's my own fuck up. That's my own fuck up, man. It's meant for May 22nd, 1962. My bad. I might go do his live show early. And not do it tomorrow. Shit. I'll save the changes though. Let's go for it. I fucked up on it. That too, I forgot to go edit. Oh, my bad. I gotta make sure, bro. I gotta make sure. What going into the Brian Pillman thing? I forgot he was born on May 22nd. Okay, let me start up over. May 22nd. Yes, Pillman was born on May 22nd, 1962, to a Welsh mother named Mary. He had 3 sisters named Angie, Linda, and Susan, as well as a brother, Phil. His father died of a heart attack when Pillman was 3 months old in August of 1962. As a child, Pillman developed multiple throat polyps and underwent between 31 and 36 operations to tend to them. Many before the age of 3. Due to the medical issues, Pillman spent a large part of his early childhood in the hospital, only going home for Christmas. Because of this, Pillman's mother chose to send him to a public school so that he could spend more time with his friends, which led him to become the only Presbyterian in otherwise Catholic family. As a child, Pillman played many sports, including basketball and hockey, but was rather fragile and was often made fun of by other children because of his raspy voice, which was which had been damaged by the many operations. This, according to his mother, prompted him to learn how to box. Football career. Pillman graduated from Norwood High School in Norwood, Ohio, a suburb of Cincinnati, while attending Miami University of Oxford, Ohio. Pillman played football for Redskins, now Miami Redhawks, now Miami Redhawks, as a defensive tackle, where he set the record in the tackle for loss category. Pillman struggled academically and needed help with school to continue to play. He was then tutored by a Miami rugby player named Bill Minich, uh, uh, a Division One second team All American in his junior year, and a Division One All American in his senior year. He went undrafted in the 1984 NFL draft. He joined his hometown Cincinnati Bengals as a free agent, where he won the Ed Block Courage Award. Yes, that's where he won the Ed Block Courage Award for his team. And later, the CFL, Canadian Football League, he played for the Stampeders, the Calgary Stampeders. The Calgary Stampeders. Jared mentioned all about it. Mentioned all about it in things. In 1986, Pillman also played for the Buffalo Bills football team in preseason action. In 1985, he was the last player cut before the start of that season. He was cut with the team right before the start of the season. His attempts to make the roster of the Bengals were covered in a series of articles in the Cincinnati Enquirer. Pillman and John Harbaugh, current head coach of the Baltimore Ravens, were roommates and defensive teammates while at Miami. We're going to the 80s right here. His wrestling career. Following the end of his football career, Pillman remained in Canada and remained and training and began under training as a wrestler under Stu Hart and his sons. He debuted in the late 1986 in Hart's Calgary-based Stampede Wrestling promotion. Pillman quickly formed a tag team with Hart's son Bruce, known as Bad Company, not to be confused with Bad Company. In April of '87, Bad Company won the Stampede Wrestling International Tag Team Championship by defeating Ron Starr and the Cuban Assassin in the finals of a tournament. Their reign lasted until October of '87. When the titles were held up following a controversial ending to a match between Bad Company and their opponents, Jerry Morrow and Makan Singh. Bad Company defeated Morrow and Singh in a rematch in late 1987 to regain the titles, eventually losing them to Morrow and the Cuban Assassin in July of '88. While Stampede, Pillman had his girlfriend at the time, goes by the name of Teresa Hayes. And he used to date this woman. And this woman used to be a Playboy playmate. They saying that she used to be a fat chick. We used to go out with Tommy Dreamer, and then all of a sudden they let her get revenge on Tommy Dreamer, and then Tommy. It's the '90s. It's in the '90s. Uh, she fielded with Tommy Dreamer in the ECW, and then nobody else even know why. Let me tell you about this shit. Let's start over. While in Stampede Wrestling, Pillman had his girlfriend at the time, Teresa Hayes, who was known as Billa McGillicuddy. Oh God, no! This woman was a ballet for Tommy fucking Dreamer. Oh no! Why the hell you gotta meet her in the 80s? Jesus Christ! Pillman had his girlfriend at the time, Teresa Hayes, portray his sister in order to get him over as a face by seating her at ringside and having heel wrestlers taunt her so that he could rescue her. Oh fucking God, no. That's why I had to go do that's why I had to go do this live show early. Before tomorrow. Pillman finished up with Stampede on August 13th of 1988, teaming up with Bruce Hart. That's the last time he's teaming up with Stu Hart's son. And Jason the Terrible. Yeah, he's Canadian. Cole Moffat. To defeat the Great Gama, Makan Singh and Johnny Smith. In the main event, he would head to the CWA, Continental Wrestling Association, that was in Memphis, Tennessee. Let me show you about the CWA. It used to be managed by the late Jerry Jarrett, who later passed away in February. It was a Memphis-based CWA that Pillman would head to continue his wrestling career. After his finish with Stampede, Pillman working briefly in '89 for New Japan Pro Wrestling. Owen Hart, the late Owen Hart used to go there. The late Owen Hart used to go there. Where Pillman had wrestled in singles matches against people such as Masa Saito, Tatsumi Fujinami, Black Cat, and Naoki Sano, as well as in tag team matches with Big Van Vader, rest in peace, and Riki Choshu, against Riki Choshu and Tatsumi Fujinami. Wait till you go for the Flying Brian thing, folks. In 1989, Pillman returned to the U.S. and began wrestling for World Championship Wrestling, where he was known as the Flying Brian character due to his athletic ability and variety of aerial maneuvers. He was one of the first American wrestlers, alongside beautiful Bobby Eaton, rest in peace, to incorporate a variety of Mexican lucha libre moves into his arsenal. He held the NWA US Tag Team Championship with the Z-Man between early 1990 and May of 1990. Pillman later feuded with Barry Windham, who he harassed while dressed as the masked Yellow Dog after losing a Loser Leaves WCW match. Pillman was eventually reinstated. He also held the short-lived WCW Light Heavyweight Championship, the WCW Light Heavyweight Championship belt. He held it twice. Too. He held that belt twice between October of 1991 and early 92, feuding with the likes of Brad Armstrong, that's Robert James, Jushin Thunder Liger, Richard Morton of the Rock and Roll Express, and Scotty Flamingo, who was later known as Raven. Pillman turned heel in September of '92, frustrated by Brad Armstrong's knee injury and vacating the WCW light heavyweight title when he was scheduled to wrestle Armstrong for the title at the Clash of the Champions XX. In late 1992, he formed a team with Barry Windham, gunning for the NWA and WCW Tag Team Championships, held by Ricky Steamboat. I'm sorry. Those belts were held by Ricky Steamboat and the franchise Shane Douglas. Wyndham and Pillman. Let me tell you, Wyndham and Pillman lost to Steamboat and Douglas at Starrcade on December 28th. I was around that time. It was December 20th. I think it was in '92. Their team lasted until January of 1993, as Wyndham had his sights on the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. The Hollywood Blondes. I don't know how he got formed. Pillman continued to the tag team title hunt by forming a tag team with Stunning Steve Austin. You can look at January of '93 on on the on WCW Saturday Night when when Barry Windham introduced Brian Pillman to Stunning Steve Austin. He said this, and that name is Austin. He'll back you up 100%. That's what Wyndham would say. You know, Wyndham would introduce Pillman to Austin. So that was in January of '93. That I did not find out. I think I seen a little clip on the Brian Pillman DVD. Pillman continued the tag team title hunt by forming a team with Stunning Steve Austin, known as the Hollywood Blondes. On the March 27th, 1993 episode of the Power Hour, the WCW Power Hour, the duo won the championships from Steamboat and Douglas. After the feud with Steamboat and Douglas ended, they went on to feud with the Four Horsemen, mainly Ric Flair and Arn Anderson, mocking their ages and parodying Flair's interview show, A Flair for the Gold, with their own called A Flair for the Old, It was a parody. They would lose the NWA and WCW World Tag Team titles to Anderson and Paul Roma at Clash of the Champions XXIV. Lord Steven Regal, who's now William Regal, well, his real name was Darren Kenneth Matthews, substituted for Pillman, who suffered a leg injury in a tag team match on an episode of WCW main event prior to the Clash of Champions show. It was prior to Clash of Champions. Uh, after the Hollywood Blondes separated in October of '93, Pillman became a face, feuding with his old partner Austin. He would also pursue the WCW World Television Championship held by Lord Steven Regal, with whom he wrestled to a 15-minute time limit draw at Spring Stampede. In late 1994, Pillman appeared with ECW, Extreme Championship Wrestling. He appeared with Extreme Championship Wrestling as a part of a talent exchange between ECW and WCW. His most notable match there was teaming with Shane Douglas to replace an injured Steve Austin, and Sherry Martel as their manager. There's Sherry Martel right here. That sensational Sherry. He was Shane Douglas's manager, ECW. Yeah, everybody else knows. In a losing effort to Ron Simmons and Two Cold Scorpio, let me just get the name. Two Cold Scorpio. The Four Horsemen thing, the whole Four Horsemen thing, and the loose cannon thing. After several months of inactivity, Pillman made his return to WCW programming in January of '95, originally to be renamed California Brian, which was scrapped after a week as a babyface who had moved to California to pursue acting work on Baywatch, with Pillman slowly progressing into a tweener, feuding with wrestlers such as Brad Armstrong, Eddie Guerrero, Alex Wright, and Marcus Bagwell. By the fall of September of '95, Pillman formed a team with Arn Anderson and began feuding with Ric Flair. I feel it's on there. They showed me a little footage from that pay-per-view, I think. On September 4th of 1995, when Pillman wrestled the first match on an inaugural episode of Monday Night Nitro by defeating Jushin Thunder Liger in a Super Brawl 2 rematch. A rematch for Super Brawl 2. Uh, After costing Flair a match to Arn Anderson at Fall Brawl, Flair recruited the help of Sting to team up against Pillman and Anderson at Halloween Havoc. Pillman and Anderson attacked Flair before the match, forcing Sting to come out alone when Sting needed a tag the most. Flair came out at the last minute with a bandage on his head, tagged Sting, and immediately turned and attacking him, removing the fake bandage from his head to show it was all a plan between Pillman and Anderson and Flair from the start. These actions had signaled the returning of the Four Horsemen. This was an incarnation of Flair, Anderson, Pillman, and the late Chris Benoit. So Pillman had worked briefly in Japan in '91 while with WCW, but his longest time there was working with NJPW in the middle of '95, where he participated in the Best of the Super Juniors. When in Japan, he wrestled Dean Malenko, Tatsuhito Takaiwa, Black Cat, Koji Kanemoto, Shinjiro Atani, Grand Hamada, Black Tiger, that had to be Eddie Guerrero, I do not know. Black Tiger. That could be Tiger Mask. Wild Pegasus, Alex Wright, and El Samurai in singles matches and in tag team matches, together with Wright, Norio Honaga, Hamada or Malenko against Akira Nogami, Koji Kanemoto, uh, Takayuki Lazuka, El Samurai, Malenko, and Honaga also participated in a several multi-man matches before returning to WCW. At the end of 1995, Pillman had developed his loose cannon gimmick. His gimmick is the loose cannon, cultivating a reputation for unpredictable behavior during this period of the time. Pillman changed his once Hollywood blonde and flying Brian clean athletic look for an edgy, out of control image. Even his allies in the Horsemen, especially Anderson, were wary of his behavior and tried in vain to keep him in check. Almost all of the time, Pillman could be seen wearing leather vests, sunglasses, jewelry, and graphic T-shirts with skulls, monsters, and sayings on them. Pillman frequently blurred fact and fiction, and fiction with his work shoots in a match with Eddie Guerrero. With Eddie Guerrero in the January 23rd, 1996 episode of Clash of the Champions XXXII. Pillman grabbed commentator Bobby Heenan by the I don't know what did Brian Pillman have done to make Heenan want to curse him out on live TV. Pillman's gonna make Heenan want to curse his ass out live on TV. He making Heenan want to curse him out. Pillman piss Heenan off. Pillman just pissed Heenan off and caused some problems with him. While Guerrero was in the ring watching him like a hawk. Shit. You don't grab a wrestling legend by the goddamn collar by causing a guy who's already been managing wrestlers for decades. You just don't do that. You just don't fucking do that. This is where Brian Pillman, his loose cannon persona, he started grabbing Bobby Heenan, the commentator Bobby Heenan, by the collar by causing Heenan, who had a slew of history of neck problems, and that's gonna make him want to blurt out by saying, "I'm on the air." He says, "This is what Heenan said." Heenan said this like live. Heenan said this on the air. He blurted out what he said on the air. He was like, "What the fuck are you doing?" That's what he blurted out. Now after he took off his goddamn blazer, he yelled the keywords. "What the fuck are you doing?" Yelled it out live on the air. And then what happened? That's what made Heenan want to stress out. But he just yelled, "What the fuck are you doing?" live on the air. But he can't even go out and fix it. He can't even go out and fix it. The damage is already done at Clash of the Champions. XXXII. The damage has been done. Until Pillman outed Kevin Sullivan as a booker during the early 1996 Super Bowl VI. Well, I think Super Bowl 6. I think pay-per-view it's a strap match. It's like a I respect you. It's like I respect you strap match. It's where the loser announces that they respect the other wrestler. Much like in I Quit match. Pillman lost to Sullivan after Pillman grabbed the microphone and said to Sullivan, he says, "I respect you, Booker man." Man. Sullivan was about to go hit Pillman with that strap. He hit Pillman. He was about to hit Pillman. Let me tell you about Sullivan. Sullivan was about to hit Pillman with the strap, and then Pillman runs away. What the fuck? Pillman grabbed the microphone and said to Kevin Sullivan, he's like, "I respect you, Booker man." Before Sullivan had to hit before Sullivan had to go hit Pillman with the strap, and then Pillman runs away from Sullivan getting ready to hit him with the strap. The words quote unquote Booker man were cut from the commercial tape. The next day at Super Bowl 6, Pillman was fired by Eric Bischoff, the former WCW president. Let me tell you about this shit. He was fired by Eric Bischoff, the former WCW president. But Bischoff, but an autobiography that's from Eric Bischoff, he said that Pillman was fired so that he could go and develop the loose cannon gimmick in ECW, then return to WCW with more legitimate heat. Bischoff claims that it was a plan he and Pillman came up with together. It would later backfire on Bischoff as Pillman did not return, and he's on his way to ECW at CyberSlam. At CyberSlam was it had to be an internet convention. Immediately following his departure from WCW, Pillman returned to ECW and appeared at the promotion's annual internet convention, ECW CyberSlam, on February 17th, 1996, during an interview conducted in the ring by Joey Styles. Pillman insulted Bischoff, calling him a commentator, a gopher, and a piece of shit. He turned. That's what we call Bischoff, piece of shit. He turned his attention to the ECW audience, derisively calling them smart marks. After Styles attempted to end the interview, Pillman threatened to yank out his Johnson and urinate in the ring. Pillman was confronted by former ECW owner Todd Gordon. Let me show you this guy's picture. Show you this guy's name. Former ECW owner and commissioner Todd Gordon, and former ECW booker and representative Paul Heyman, and wrestler Shane Douglas, who had him removed from the ring by security guards. While being dragged from the arena, Pillman attacked a plant sitting in the audience with a fork he produced from his boot. Although he did not wrestle for ECW, Pillman made several further appearances with the promotion, engaging in a war words with Douglas, setting up a proposed feud. That's what's been done. He gained the ire of New Jack when he referred to Jack's tag team with Mustafa Saeed as niggas with attitudes. He referring why he mistaken the gangsters for NWA, niggas with attitudes. You call New Jack Mustafa. You referring to them as niggas with attitudes. At Fight the Power. That's a reference from a rap group in the 80s. NWA. American hip hop group that was formed in Compton, California. But what that loose cannon persona, Pillman became the talk of all three major promotions as he was on his way to the World Wrestling Federation. After he was scheduled to have that feud back to wrestle with Shane Douglas in ECW on April 15th, 1996, but Pillman was badly injured, falling asleep while driving his Hummer H1 in Kentucky and driving into a tree trunk, flipping the vehicle. He was in a coma for a week and suffered a shattered ankle, forcing doctors to fuse it together. In a fixed walking position, and thus forcing Pillman to abandon his previous high-flying wrestling style for a more grounded style. And he's off to the WWF. Hencefield was old tag team partner uh in the Blondes. Pillman signed a contract with the WWF on June 10th, 1996, with the signing announced in a press conference. He was the second wrestler to sign a guaranteed contract with the WWF after Mark Miro, indicative of the period in which Vince McMahon began to protect the company from abruptly losing talent to WCW with Lex Luger, Kevin Nash, and the late Scott Hall, all previously doing so. Pillman acted as a commentator while that's what Pillman did. He acted as a commentator while recovering from his broken ankle, transitioning from transitioning what is he transitioning to? A wrestling role after attacking an unruly fan during an episode of WWF Superstars on June 29th, 1996 in Detroit. On early November of 96, November 4th, 1996, the episode of Raw when RAW, Raw, Pillman took part in the infamous Pillman's Got a Gun angle with his former teammate Stone Cold Steve Austin. When Pillman initially arrived to the WWF, he aligned himself immediately with his longtime friend and former teammate Austin, serving as his lackey while he recovered. However, Pillman began noticeably favoring Austin's nemesis, Bret Hart, before Austin had enough and brutally attacking him in the ring during an interview on an episode of Superstars on October 27th, 1996. Austin and Pillman had been feuding for several weeks, and Austin finally decided to take matters into his own hands and visit Pillman, whom he had already injured at his home in Walton, Kentucky. WWF ex-WWF interviewer Kevin Kelly sat in Pillman's house with a camera crew and the Pillman family, while Pillman's friends surrounded the house to protect him. As the interview progressed, Pillman got infuriated and produced a Colt 45 pistol. A Colt 45 pistol, angrily exclaiming that this 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 is what he said. This is what Pillman said. When I said 316 means Pillman 9mm clock, I'm gonna blast his sorry ass straight to hell. That's Pillman. That's Pillman talking. I had to do Brian Pillman's voice. Fuck. This is what he says when Austin 316 meets Pillman 9mm Glock. I'm gonna blast his sorry ass straight to hell. That's what Pillman said. Austin was attacked by Pillman's friends as soon as he arrived, but he quickly subdued them. He then proceeded to break into Pillman's home, Pillman's Walton, Kentucky home, and advance on his nemesis. However, Pillman responded by pulling out the pistol, a Colt 45 pistol, and pointing it at a hesitant Austin while killing Pillman's wife Melanie, screaming for help. Well, Melanie Pillman had passed away, I think. So it had nothing to do with the incident. R.I.P. Melanie Reed Pillman. Screamed for help screaming for help as the camera feed was then disrupted. With the scene fading to black and the shock value started happening. The on-scene director contacted commentator Vince McMahon and reported that he heard a couple explosions. The transmission was restored shortly before the end of Raw. And the viewers witnessed Pillman's friends dragging Austin from the house, while Pillman in the gun and Austin announced his intention to kill that son of a bitch. That's what Pillman said. Pillman also slipped up by saying, "Get out of the fucking way." And that's what he said on live television, which prevented it from being edited out. It's being prevented from being edited out. The WWF and Pillman eventually apologized for the entire angle where that came out. God. I just hate doing that man's voice. I feel bad. What do you see the Hart Foundation in the late 90s, where it got reformed? After WrestleMania 13, Pillman returned and aligned himself with his real-life close friends, Bret Hart. Guys like Bret Hart. Let me pull a picture up. Let me start over. Pillman returned and he aligned himself with his close friends in real life, Bret the Hitman Hart, the late Owen Hart, the late British Bulldog, and the late Jim the Anvil Neidhart, all of whom he was familiar from his Stampede wrestling roots, turning Pillman heel as part of the anti-American Hart Foundation. He began feuding with his former partner Steve Austin in the course of the feud. Austin was given on-screen credit for damaging Pillman's ankle in late October of '96 after placing it in between the seat and the backrest of a folded chair, and then jumping on the chair. This particular style of attack has since been dubbed the Pillmanizer. The Pillmanizer in honor of this incident. Pillman began competing again as a full-time in-ring competitor in May, frequently teaming with the Hart Foundation members in six-man tag matches against Austin and the Legion of Doom. On July 6, 1997, at In Your House 16 Canadian Stampede in Bret's hometown, Calgary, Pillman and the Hart Foundation defeated the American team of Stone Cold Steve Austin, Dustin Rhodes, who was formerly known as Goldust, ex-wrestler Ken Shamrock, and the late Legion of Doom, who had to be the Road Warriors. In a 10-man tag team match in the main event, after his feud with Austin, he feuded with Goldust over Marlena, who had to be Rhodes' real life former wife, Terry. Yeah, that could be Dustin Rhodes' former wife, his real life former wife, Terry. He used to wrestle as Alexandra York in WCW in the early 90s. Until his untimely death. Pillman lost to Goldust at SummerSlam, in which Pillman was forced to wear a dress during his matches for a month. Pillman then challenged Goldust again to a match with the two stipulations. If Pillman won, he would take Marlena away from Goldust to be his personal assistant for 30 days. or if Goldust won, Pillman would leave the WWF for the rest of his life. Pillman defeated Goldust at In Your House 17 Ground Zero. This turned out to be his final WWF pay-per-view appearance. During the feud, they would for several weeks. For several weeks, later appearance segments called Brian Pillman's Triple X Files, in which Molina was made to wear sexually provocative clothing. His final WWF televised match came out on the October 4th of 1997 episode of Shotgun Saturday Night by defeating the Wilkes, the Patriot, by disqualification due to interference by Goldust. After the match, Goldust chased him and Molina out of the arena. Terry, why would Pillman had Terry managing him in the first place? Wait till you see his personal life. Wait till you see his personal life. Pillman was a very close friend to the Hart family. Understand? Both Pillman and the Harts have referred to themselves as being close as siblings. Pillman stated that he loved Bret and Owen enough to be willing to do anything for them. He was the member of the Hart Foundation to not be related to the family through either blood or marriage. Pillman dated Terry Runnels when she was Alexander York, while they were in WCW together before her marriage to Dustin Rhodes, which would later be utilized in a 1997 angle between Pillman and Goldust. He later married Melanie Morgan on March 17th, 1993. Melanie had two children at the time, Alexis Michelle Reed and Jesse Morgan. Oh, Melanie Morgan. Oh, name was Melanie Morgan Reed Pillman. Shit. Okay. From her previous relationships. Two previous relationships. Brian and Melanie had two children together. The other one's name is Brian Zachary Pillman. Who had to be Brian Pillman Jr. and Skylar King. The latter born after Pillman's death. Melanie also adopted one of Brian's daughters, Brittany, despite not being biological parent. Pillman is often referred to as the father of Melanie's children. Jesse Morgan and Alexis Michelle Reed. Pillman adopted Alexis before his death. As per Brian Pillman, loose cannon, Brian and Melanie were involved in a heated divorce at the time of his death in October of 1997. Melanie has said that she meant for the divorce to be a wake-up call for Brian, and they were still living together at the time of Brian's passing. But he vanished to the basement. In 2017, Brian Pillman's daughter, Brittany, claimed that Melanie's daughter, Skylar King, is not Pillman's biological daughter, but the child of another man whom Melanie married shortly after Pillman's death, and that all the money given by WWF and the wrestlers to support Pillman's family was used by Melanie for drugs. In 2021, Viceland did a two-part episode about Pillman on Dark Side of the Ring and Life, his sister, son, daughters, Melanie, and NFL Straight. Coach Kim Wood talked about Pillman's life. Melanie Pillman was found dead from issues surrounding her years of drug abuse on June 1st of last year. As confirmed by son Brian Jr. She was 56 years old. She was 56 years old On October 5th, 1997, Pillman was scheduled to wrestle Dude Love, who had to be Mick Foley, at the WWF pay-per-view In Your House 18 Bad Blood. Steve Austin relayed that Jim Cornette was instructed to find the whereabouts of Pillman. Jim contacted the Budget Tel Motel in Bloomington, Minnesota, where Pillman had stayed the previous night, and was told by the receptionist that Pillman was found dead at his hotel room by the maids earlier that day at 1:09 p.m. Central Time. He was 35 years old. 35 years old, he was found dead. An autopsy attributed Pillman's death to a heart attack, like the same thing that his father had. Like the same heart attack that his father died from. However, Austin explained that this was caused by previously undetected atherosclerotic heart disease, a condition that had also led to the death of Pillman's father. The next night on Raw, the WWF paid tribute to Brian Pillman. Later that night, Vince McMahon interviewed Melanie Pillman. The interview was seen as in poor taste and was awarded Wrestling Observer Newsletter's Most Disgusting Promotional Tactic Award for that year. And we're going to his legacy that we're going to put together. All right, that's what I'm about to go in. That's why I'm about to go in this, and that's what I'm going to end this thing at. In early 2008, let me tell you about this shit. In early 2008, that's in February, Pillman's adopted daughter, Alexis Michelle Reed, entered professional wrestling as a valet under the ring girl under the name Sexy Lexi Pillman. That's her name, Sexy Lexi Pillman. On late 2009, Reed died from injuries sustained in an automobile accident. Reed was 26 years old. She was Brian Pillman Jr.'s sister. She was Brian Pillman Jr.'s sister. Like his father, Brian Zachary became a football player and played at the high school level while attending Dixie Heights High School before graduating in 2011. In early 2017, he announced his decision to follow in his father's footsteps. To follow his father's footsteps to become a pro wrestler. He added that he wants to follow his father's high-flying style and keep his legacy alive. The younger Pillman was trained by Lance Storm, who used to tag team with Chris Jericho and Smoky Mountain Wrestling in the 90s, and uses the Twitter handle at Flying Brian Jr. as a tribute to his father. He made his wrestling debut in December of 2017 and is now wrestling for All Elite Wrestling, beginning in the summer of 2020, where he, Griff Garrison, and Julia Hart formed a stable, the Varsity Blondes, paying tribute to the 1980s era and to his father's tag team with Steve Austin. Yeah, with the baddest, toughest wrestler who likes to start doing gestures and flipping people off, and you know, drinking beer and all that shit. That's Steve Austin. That stable is like paying a tribute to the 80s era and to his father's tag team with Stone Cold Steve Austin. So go to championships accomplishments here. Oh, I seen that there. There's always accomplishments. Yeah, there's video games. Yeah, video games and all that shit. Yeah, it's done now. All right, that's a Well, looks like I'm not gonna do a live show based on him tomorrow, but I had to do it today. Man, that's about it. That's about it for the birthday celebration of Brian Pillman, which was became the legacy of Brian Pillman. What? Let me go edit this shit then. Let me edit this. I'll type the legacy of Brian William Pillman right here. I had to go save the mug. I had to save the changes. I felt bad for doing so. I had to save the changes. I got fucked up on that one. I fucked up on that bullshit. That's done. That's done. Had to change the title around. Well, I had a bad feeling it wasn't even the birthday celebration of Brian Pillman. Now I might just rename it the legacy of Brian Pillman, Brian William Pillman. So it wasn't even his birthday, but I had to go tell a story. His birthday's tomorrow, but fucked up on that one. I had picked the wrong day to do this live show. But it's a trifecta. But rest in peace to what that kid. Rest in peace to Brian Pillman. To Brian Pillman. Uh, born May 22nd, 1962, died on October 5th, 1997. Rest in peace. Rest in peace, Brian William Pillman.